how does one get into product?
Get a girlfriend who was already there.
A LinkedIn stamp says I was in product, then it's easier to continue in product.
Your LinkedIn matters.
It matters a lot. Automated doors versus the doorman. So automated door is a product, a doorman is a service. For a country where you need a liftman to operate an automated lift, where the doors open themselves and close themselves. So I think one key takeaway for the audience watching is don't rush into trying to become the head of something or trying to lead something too soon.
So what is PMF?
PMF is this holy grail that you...
What is mentorship to you?
There are two things that mentorship delivers.
Who would you rather hire? A brilliant jerk or a mediocre nice guy? Is there any point in being a creator?
I feel Bangalore's too...
Mumbai is traditionally not known for tech.
So I think you need that Bombay offers.
What is it like working with me?
Simple words.
Ladies and gentlemen and wonderful people of the internet, welcome to this episode of Elsonomics. In today's episode, I have someone super special with me. This gentleman has been in the startup space for more than a decade. He's built the 0 to 1 journey, found PMF. He's also moved on to corporates, some of the most well-known names in the space. Now he is working with one of the largest new age media networks in India and probably across the globe as well. And most importantly, and this is what I really like, he is a family man. He is balanced work life really well. He is a father, he's a vintner, he's a biker. There's a lot that we're going to unpack in today's episode. But most importantly, I've also had the opportunity to work alongside him. So let's uncover all of that. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Jay to today's episode. Welcome, Jay Magdani.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Jay, so let's dive straight into the meat of things. I want to unpack everything, right? There's a lot that we're going to cover, but I want to go back to the early days. Tell us a little bit about you. What kind of a child were you? I know you're a dad today, but let's go back to the days, tell us, I want to know what you were, like what kind of a child, student, etc.
Yeah, I think, of course, memory only allows me up until after around 6 years old. I've had a wonderful childhood. I've been born and brought up in Bombay forever. In fact, my family's been in Bombay since before independence. So we are true Mumbaikars or Bombaykars, as we like to call it. My early education, I think the one thing, I don't have a backstory which is very, full of struggle.
Okay, so no origin story like that.
No origin story like that. I've had a stable, it's been a fairly good upbringing for me. I love my parents for that, of course.
Were you like a lower middle class, or up and high?
Well off. The definition of that has changed over time, but back then, upper middle class.
Business background?
Business background. My dad's been into business for since 86, I think. So.
And did that have a role to play in, you seeing that early on that, okay, I need to also get into this, or was it?
It's very interesting. So there was a time, and I'm going to jump a little bit forward, quite a bit forward. There was a time when, me and my brother both, did our engineering degrees in comp science. And my dad's been in his business for 30 years and nobody's been really taken over the mantle. So there was a time when we had a very tough conversation where he was like, one of y'all have to take it forward. I don't want to shut it down. It's been my legacy for 40 years. And we weren't really interested. There was a time when I was, and then I think life happened and then I wasn't.
Tell me about that where you're like, dad's built a business. He's kept that mantle for you. You just need to come and sit there. But what is it about? And also you can maybe dive into what was he doing.
He's been in the space of manufacturing and exporting garments, primarily men's garments, t-shirts, primarily cotton.
Well, that makes sense with the Bombay mill story and all of that.
Yeah, but interestingly, we've had our factory back in Tirupur. It's very close to Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. We used to manufacture primarily to Europe. A lot of that we've kind of slowed down now, given there is nobody to take that over. So over time, he's now getting into this phase of shutting it down. But that was that. And then when I kind of started, the conversation about me taking over was during my Uth Club days, when I started getting into retail manufacturing of men's t-shirts. In India. Basically, what happened was, interestingly, I saw this space or open space back then in 2010, 11-ish, when men's t-shirts, casual t-shirts and good quality casual t-shirts worn by folks who would just probably get into their first jobs, didn't have a lot of money, but still wanted to wear good quality clothing.
A little bit of fast fashion that is trendy.
Correct. Trendy, great quality.
Right.
It's
not a one wash, use and throw.
Exactly. I think that space didn't exist back then, so I started that, and that was ecstatic because that was for him my first step into getting into his business, and for me it was close to home, so it was very comfortable for me because I knew the manufacturing side of things. The only thing I needed to solve for was the retail side of things. And then kind of it didn't really work out. When I look back, it feels that they were very stupid mistakes. But in the thick of things, yeah, I made some mistakes which lost me a lot of cash flow, which then led to a point where I was about 180 days behind my cash flow. And I'm like, this is not going to work out. So then I had to kind of slowly cut that down. And then that's when the conversation with dad happened. And I said no. And then we kind of didn't speak for 7 days because he was expecting me to take over, saying that, listen, now you got the flavor of it. Now why don't you take over? And I was like, no, that's not happening. I want to get back into, I love building product. That's actually where
And this is post your stint at Infosys as an
Correct.
right?
Correct. So I did that for about a year and a half.
How old were you back then?
I just come out of my college, so 2010 is when I graduated. So I was about 22, I think.
So fresh out of the world, you had no experience in what the startup world is, the rule book.
I don't think startup as a word existed back in 2011-ish is when I started this. At least it wasn't mainstream for sure.
One of the things that I want to emphasize is while Elsonomics is the study of success, I think success it comes with failures, it comes with struggles, it comes with those stories. So, share those. By the end of this podcast, whoever's watching, assume it's the 22-year-old kid, the new Jays of the world, and they want to know the tough world so that they can stomach that and go through it, right? So post your stint at Uth Club, what happened next?
I'll go like one level deeper in what happened with Uth Club. So we were building a brand, right? So what was two things went wrong. Of course, cash flow is an issue that you can now solve through a lot of different forms of funding if that happens to you, right? Back then it was a little bit harder, but in today's age you can at least solve it through interesting techniques, finance techniques that you can employ. But the other mistake that we made, which I realized was a backbreaker for us more than the cash flow, was we used to give the garments or the t-shirts to a lot of retailers. We started out in Bombay and Pune to then, because a lot of the shopping was offline back then, right? But primarily, e-commerce did not really exist in our country. So primarily we gave the t-shirts to fairly large retail units out in Bombay and Pune. And they, of course, there's a base price, they set it at a premium, etc., etc. You set the rate. What we did was, because we were targeting, our TG was primarily college students getting into their first jobs. That was kind of the TG we were exploring. So what we did was we went to a lot of these college fests. We ran a lot of interesting contests and gamified some of the stuff that we did with college students in the fest. And then we gave away those t-shirts at about 40-50% discount in the name of gamification, in the name of contests. What happened that we were in far too many of these fests eventually. And then what happened was we had a lot of kids who loved our product, but they basically waited for the next fest because the fest circle in Bombay and Pune was very small back then. Again, we had like 30-40 colleges where fests would happen at a certain scale, and we were present in almost all of them. So they would then wait for the fest to then get the product at a discounted rate.
You see this today, even with the products, right? Where like I buy something at a discount, now I need a discount.
Yeah. So the retailers found this out, and I think they're like,
you're competing with us.
Yeah, and I'm giving you my shelf space, which is the most prime real estate for them, and the sale is not as much because of what you're doing. It's not going to work. So that's where our failure was, where we didn't realize the impact of building a brand for ourselves that would have on our partners. And with retailers back then, because they were the big bulls in the market, once you lost their trust, it became very hard for us to go back on the shelf for the large retailers, at least.
This is probably your first podcast or so, and you keep telling that, I see you on and off on LinkedIn. And when I was telling you that, hey, you have to come for this podcast, I kind of arm twisted you into it. I'm like, Jay, you have to come for this. Yeah. But from there, I think you have worked at Culture Machine. You built Culture Machine. You are now at Collective Artist Network. So a lot of creators. How does that dichotomy, or how do I call it, that irony work? And why are you not so keen on putting yourself out there? If you can talk a little bit about that. And then we can dive into the Culture Machines.
In fact, I'm not on and off on LinkedIn. I'm mostly off of LinkedIn. Even on Instagram, I'm fairly inactive, mostly personal stuff. I think it's a very personal choice, but I have a strong belief that there's so much content out there. You're not posting for attention, you're posting for the algorithm. And that kind of the authenticity is lost in, at least for me. Like, again, I get it that this is a form of entertainment that really works for a lot of consumers and a lot of creators, including yourself and including all of our creators back in Collective and back then in Culture Machine as well. But personally, for me, that authenticity I just could not find for myself to be online. I find it much better to have a honest conversation in person with anybody that I need to, or pick up the phone and talk to them. Broadcasting views gets a little bit inauthentic for me. And like I said, I'm only doing this because you're a dear friend. I generally don't engage in podcasts.
So hopefully we can have a nice and honest conversation. Like maybe change your mind a little.
Yeah, if absolutely, we'll try.
But I mean, this is an interesting topic, and I want to segue into that a little bit, right? Because you do have a little bit of the product tech background and the media background. This is something that I also grapple with, because see, I use a lot of AI avatars for my content.
Yeah.
And I can see it. And I'm like, I'm no longer required for my content to be there. And that's why I enjoy podcasts, because I'm like, okay, for someone to replicate this, where I'm a lot more free flowing and not very doctored, is going to be hard. But again, it's just a matter of time. Let me summarize it. Is there any point in being a creator?
No, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, what matters is content. I think the medium is not as important now. So let me put it this way. So if you're able to engage in quality content, engage your audience in quality content, doesn't matter who's on the other side of the camera. Any podcaster you take, that in this case podcaster, Joe Rogan you take, yeah, Naval you take, or it could be in front of nothing, just a plain blank wall. If the content resonates with the audience, it resonates with the audience. So I think it says the same thing, that in fact in Collective as well, we've created a couple of virtual influencers. One is Kavya Mehra, one is Radhika Subramaniam. Both of them are very active on Instagram. And very, very quickly you realize that the novelty of the AI part of the world wears off. Then what matters is the quality of the content. So I think that will continue. Of course, an individual may be replaced in front of the camera with a virtual influencer of some sort.
But it's still their story.
It's still your story. Assisted by AI tools, that's of course true. Who doesn't use a GPT today? Who doesn't use a Sora today? But at the end of the day, it's your narrative. It doesn't matter how it's put forth.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I also think. So there are these larger podcasters abroad, like Alex Cooper, etc. They do different formats. Sometimes they make it like a live episode where they just get a closed room. It turns out to like a David Letterman sort of a show. So I think there's always, you can evolve. The tools are more, you use some of them or you explore, and they kind of change your way of thinking.
Yeah, and also what will happen over time, and you can see that very, very well with VO3 now. It's not yet come in India yet, but you expect that to happen in the next maybe less than a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, they can mimic podcasts. They're mimicking street interviews.
Yeah, you've lost that boundary between what's real and what's not is fairly thin now. Like I said, the novelty of what is AI, at least for the audience, you'll not even know unless it's kind of called out loud. And then what matters is the content.
Yeah. It becomes part of, right now we're looking at it as, okay, this is AI, this is normal content, the lines are going to blur, and then we figure out a new story.
Yeah, there are very interesting ways in which AI will definitely help, or will continue to help, and is helping creators scale as well. Let's say, for example, I'm going extreme, right? Imagine that there was a time in the future, or there is a time in the future, where you are having, let's say, a content is like this, and the line between what is a game and what is entertainment is also blurred. So imagine that the audience who's listening to this conversation,
they can step in and
they can step in and, basis my personality or your personality, tune the conversation to be completely different from what we're actually talking. And with AI assistance, that just happens. So, and I talk about this from a movie world as well. Imagine a movie where nothing's shot. The only thing is you have a couple of actors whose faces have been used, and the story is completely dependent on the audience who's watching it. So your story of back in the day, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, for example, would be very different because you chose to navigate the story.
You can have like multiple plot lines. I think Black Mirror tried to do something like that.
Exactly. But that will become real very, very quickly. And is that a bad thing? I don't think so. It allows you to, like I said, right, it allows you to make Kuch Kuch Hota Hai the way you wanted it versus the way director of back then wanted it, So it's
very true about products as well, right? So post our stint where I was doing community, I got into product. So it was all about building UI, UX, screens and all of that. And today the new narrative is you're going to have personalization to another level altogether, where your screen is going to be very different from others, right? True, because you've also worked at CleverTap, where personalization, engagement and all of that. And now this is going to just hyperscale. Like my version of the app experience, even if it's interfacing with thumbs and fingers, is going to be very different. But let's dial back, talk about Culture Machine.
We were a media tech company, so culture and machine kind of came together, media and tech coming together. We had the culture part of the business, had YouTube channels back then, like Being Indian, Put Chutney, etc., Blush, etc. We competed with the AIBs of the world back then. And then the intelligence part of the business, we had built two products. One was Intelligence Machine and one was Video Machine. Intelligence Machine would basically scour the internet back then, YouTube primarily, and Twitter a little bit, in terms of what content worked for the audience, and then brought that intelligence to brands and creators alike. And then Video Machine, which was far ahead of its time, which was basically what you see with Veo today, which is basically allowing you to create videos using just text prompts. Imagine it was 2014. So the Video Machine part of it was very, very hard for us to, it was a great vision, but I think the technology was not there yet. We were a little too early for it. There's this one takeaway that I have from why we couldn't scale it beyond what we could, because one, we were selling it primarily in India. And there's this interesting theory that a very good mentor of mine has come up with for India as a country in terms of B2B consumers. He tells me that there is, for a country where you need a liftman to operate an automated lift, where the doors open themselves and close themselves, they're not going to be using the product as DIY.
It needs to have a service.
You need, yeah. And a very interesting thought, right? Think about it. We wanted to build it as a pure play product,
A self-serve model.
yeah. And I think that's where the gap was. And then we started, which kind of led us to go into Southeast Asia, Middle East, eventually US. But I think back then there was a little bit of a funding crunch. Tiger had just gotten into this getting out of India mode, and we were funded by them. So we just couldn't raise the round that we needed to expand beyond India. We had to at least scale down on the tech part of the world, so that the content part of the world would run, because that was running fairly more successfully.
We've already touched upon some product terms. We did gamification, we talk a little bit of personalization, we talk about being too early, maybe being too late, and all of that. I think your stint after that was at CleverTap. And that's B2B SaaS. One of the largest names, if not the largest name, or it's definitely the one that and since we use it a lot, it's one that's being compared to, it's like a gold standard there. You've seen multiple roles there, leading the product, head of product. I think your last stint was as a director. What was that stint? And tell me about this as well, right? So someone who has done a little bit of 0 to 1 experience, is mid in their career, and now wants to get into a corporate, right? Have that stability, but still experiment quite a lot. So tell me about that. How does someone crack a role like that as a director of product? And number two, what was that scale? Is that the largest scale that we've seen? Or
Yeah.
so that too. Like, tell me, go from the 0 to 1, and from that, I mean, we touched upon the 0 to 1, but I want to talk about scale.
A little bit of taking a step back. My first stint as product was, interestingly, at Culture Machine. My wife actually brought me there. So she's been in product since she got out of college in Simbi. We both met there, and she's been in product since then. I wasn't consulting before that. Primarily, the reason was for us to come together was I was in Pune, and she'd come to Bombay with this role, and we just wanted to be together, to be very honest. We'd just gotten married. We didn't want to stay apart. So she recommended me to my CTO back then, her CTO as well. And it just clicked, and I got into the product role. So it was just pure out of luck, where we just wanted to be together.
I mean, that's good enough reason.
Yeah, good enough reason. And so I got into product very out of sheer luck. And how does one get into product? I don't really have that answer. There are
Get a girlfriend who was already there.
one of the one of the ways. But I think everybody gets there because there's no formal education.
Absolutely. It's very vague. By definition, it has to be vague.
Exactly. It's a little bit of an easier journey for somebody who's been in tech, because tech products, you have to
You have to get the respect of the engineer.
Yeah.
And you have to talk.
and you have to get the pulse of the product, which is the technology. So it's a little bit easier. But there's no one right answer as to how do I get into product. So that's how I got into product. And then from there on, and it's relatively easy because, once you have a LinkedIn stamp that says I was in product, then it's easier to continue in product. Again, unfortunate reality in India is that your past background is...
Your LinkedIn matters.
It matters a lot.
What do you think went right for CleverTap? Because today they're big.
See, there were a lot of, and they still continue to exist. A lot of companies in this space started out together. I won't want to take names right now, but a lot of products similar to CleverTap kind of started around that time. I think what was valuable for us was we were very fast, and we, contrary again to traditional product thinking, which is we kind of did not adhere to, was build for that one customer. That's fine. So we had this very interesting theory that, again, a very dear friend of mine who was leading sales with CleverTap back then, called Kuldeep, he would call me, and if he watches this, once he watches this, he's going to call me and he's going to bash me. But we had this theory where if a customer is willing to pay for it, and if it's useful to more than one, you build it. Our first version was always, again, there's this theory now that says, be ashamed of your first version. Back then we were like, we when we built out our first version, it was buggy. It was, the UX was all over the place. There were a lot of issues. And the interesting part was this: if we got a lot of complaints, we knew that people were using it, and of course we had data to back it up as well. But the fact that we had complaints was great for us, because we knew that
you had your next problem to solve.
Yeah. So we had the cleanup crew as well, where
so you're breaking things, but someone is hiding the mess.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. And this was within the product team.
Very small. Yeah, we were like 9 or 10 of us in the engineering, product and design space. That allowed us to grow really fast. And of course, I wouldn't have product and tech take all the credit. I think our marketing and sales was on point as well. Very strong team, actually, to be very honest. Yeah.
CleverTap today is at a massive scale. So when you left, what number was it? How big are they right now?
When I left, we were about 330 people, if I'm not wrong.
What changes during that phase of going from, a small garage surface setup? Because culture-wise, there's a huge change, right? And I mean, I've seen that to some extent, and I've also been like, okay, because I'm very hands-on, dirty. I like being involved in everything.
It's very cliche, but the first thing is that you have to be okay with change. When I came in, we had a team, but I was effectively the traditional PM. I was the only one back then, and then we had to hire everybody. And then there was a lot of hiring that happened as we grew, where I had people come in as my bosses. I've had wonderful bosses after that as well. They didn't know the product as much as I did. They didn't, of course, snatched it.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah.
Because, I've been there since the beginning, and you have to be okay with that. I think because the strengths that they bring in was enormous to help you grow in your career. I think the one key takeaway from that for me was that it's okay for things to go a little slow over time. I'll give you a very simple example. If I look back, I did not want to be heading product too early in my career because I needed a mentor back then. So I think one key takeaway for the audience watching is don't rush into trying to become the head of something or trying to lead something too soon. You want to spend a lot of time learning, getting mentored before you start leading.
I see this appeal among a lot of people who work at well-positioned jobs where they can, live there and die there. And then they're like, there's the rest of the world, the startup guys, those guys look at them and are like, that would be such a great job to have. But suddenly the ones in the corporate, they're like, yeah, I want the 0 to 1, right? Because I think post your stint there, you also went to Colum.
Yeah.
And you did something in a almost a proxy founder journey where you were leading the business unit at Let's Venture. Again, going from scale back into what does that appeal? Why? Is it learning, or is it ownership, or is it what fascinates you?
I was comfortable. I wanted the feel of, over time, products in the same category start to kind of look like siblings and are to a great extent, that there's no concept of innovation beyond a certain point, because every product at some point just gets commoditized. So service innovation is what wins, price war wins, product kind of becomes a commodity over time.
That's interesting, because a lot of new age product managers, they're like, product-led growth chahiye, it has to be product-less people. I want to stay away from. I mean, there is this dichotomy of service business here, product business here, and I also along the same line. I'm like they are very good together. There's a lot of synergies that have to be developed, and if you are of the mindset that this doesn't scale, this is services, we should not do that. That's interesting. Something.
Yeah, I'll give you an example that I think this guy, Rory Sutherland, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's, I think, written the book Alchemy. He gives this very, very beautiful example about automated doors versus the doorman. So automated door is a product, a doorman is a service. Once automated doors came in, you realize that the service did not exist. In most places, wherever you had automated doors, the doorman did not exist.
Right.
But if you think about it, about 10% of the doorman's job was to actually open the door. The rest of it was not opening the door. It was hailing a cab. It was to greet you. Once you enter the establishment, you're greeted with a smile. You're greeted with an exchange.
So there's a primary job to be done, but there are multiple secondary ones.
But you forget about it that, automation is done. I don't need the service anymore.
You talk about mentors. And I also know that you go back, or you used to go back to Symbiosis, which is one of the largest colleges in Pune. My sister studied there as a lecturer here and there. What is mentorship to you?
I think somebody that you are comfortable going to with a statement, or you can make the statement, listen, I am struggling. This is where I struggle. And without any shadow of judgment, you gotta solve. To me, what mentorship is, that I don't want you to judge me no matter how big or small my issue is. I'm struggling. It could be a personal struggle. It could be a professional struggle. And I'm looking for you to help me. And I think there are two things that mentorship delivers. One is you have to give time when the struggle is at its peak. When it's very emotional. Why does somebody need mentorship? It's a very loaded term, but if you think about it very, very deeply, I'm emotionally very vulnerable at a time when I'm calling you or I'm calling upon your help. If I say, listen, I'm going to call you tomorrow, it may not work. You would have lost the moment. Ability to give time, not just in the sense of I'm giving so much time to you, but in the sense that, listen, I'm there for you when you need me at that moment. It's timely as well.
Also talk about what is PMF, because PMF, layman's term. I come from a school of thought that, hey, PMF is a spectrum. You have PMF at multiple stages and it develops, it evolves. But maybe to someone who doesn't know anything about product, because that's the holy grail of building products, what is PMF? And tell us about how you achieve PMF, Kola.
I try and keep it very simple. Of course, there are layers to it. A lot of people say that PMF is when you can start selling something. I think that's kind of true, but there's a layer to it. If you push something hard enough, anything can be sold. PMF is achieved when a product gets a pull. That instead of you pushing the product for a sale, there are inquiries coming in and interest coming in. There's natural demand. There is organic demand. And all of these kind of metrics like NPS, CSAT, your organic versus your CAC.
Expand on it. So NPS is Net Promoter Score. CSAT is your customer satisfaction.
All of these are metrics which help you determine how NPS, like for example, how likely is it for you to recommend your product to a friend or a colleague? What does that mean? Organic versus paid marketing, the ratio, or your CAC or a customer acquisition cost as a metric. What are these? At their very core, they are numbers that help you determine how much pull is in my product versus how much I have to push the product. So once you start getting getting early pull, that there is early inquiries, is when you've gotten onto the PMF journey. So, but PMF is this holy grail that you always strive to achieve, but you never achieve, but you at least get onto the road of it.
Suppose that, and this is where things get interesting. And I'm going to put you on the spot. There was work-life balance, and you had emphasized on that. And it was less about micromanaging, it was about ownership. But every week or so, I remember you had these OKRs. We had a Confluence doc, you'd read that. But you also tried to build that culture. We had that gather.town, we tried to play some games and all of that. So talk a little bit about that journey. But before you do, how was I? What is it like working with me?
Simple words, wonderful. I'll kind of break this down into a personal lens and a professional lens. I think personally, I was very intrigued by, for people who don't know, by the way, he's a dentist, he's a doctor. And I was very, very intrigued by somebody who'd pursued a journey towards a profession which is very different as different can be, from where you eventually ended up into and what you are doing now. And I always tell people when I interview them that tell me something about you that I would remember you by, even if this interview was not a success. And for me, that was that, and that kind of stayed with me since then. So the fact that you were willing to give all of that up for pure passion was wonderful for me, and to do what we did at ScaleX together. The experiments were mad. They were great fun. So loved it.
I think that was also a time important in your life, because that was when you were also putting on another role, which is as a dad. About work-life balance, because you're a vintner. I know you like bikes. Let's dive into work-life balance. Is that a myth? Tell us about that. And if it's not a myth, how can someone achieve it?
This work-life balance is nothing but giving yourself some downtime for things that you love to do. Even if you were to, let's say, I'll take an example of this travel influencer who's getting into the influencer journey that I know really well now. And she is like, listen, I got to stop traveling now. I need a break. So even in the journey of whatever, if you do something too frequently, you need a little bit of a breather. Doesn't matter what it is. Even if you game a lot, for example, you're going to need a breather. It's not a myth. Everybody needs downtime.
Like, what are your hobbies?
A lot of my time is primarily spent with my kid and my wife, and basically family, my mom, dad. So more than pursuing a hobby, I try and spend as much time that I get with them. So a lot of my downtime is either working out or spending time with family.
But life changes once you get a daughter?
Substantially so. So I'll give you my personal example on biking. I used to love biking a lot. My first bike was 310 GS BMW. We went on a lot of rides together. And then COVID happened, and then kind of that reduced. And then right after, I think 2022 is when I had my kid. So then after that, I've not done biking a lot, because that changed. Because while it continues to be my passion, but I would prefer to use that time with the family rather than biking. So then your passions change. You get into stuff that involves the family. I have a very small home brewery where we make wine. So this year, my kids now almost 2.5 now, almost 3. So my wife and the 3 of us in February, we drove down to Nasik. There are a lot of wholesalers who sell grapes, which are essentially the grapes that are rejected by some of the vineyards there. And so we know a couple because we've been doing this for a year, for a few years. So we went, we made a trip out of it. The 3 of us, we got the grapes, we got it home. Oh, wonderful place. We got it home, and then we started crushing the grapes. So now imagine, like, you and your kid and your wife are crushing the grapes with your hands. So your passion changes to something, at least for me that happened, to something that involves the family.
You're working at a new age media tech company covering almost pretty much every influencer, actor, model that we know. More so, I also want to know, like, this is not a industry which is tech friendly or tech first. How, correct me if I'm wrong. So tell me a little bit about that.
Very interesting. We're in like I said, a new age media company. We have 3 products. We have the Big Bang Social product, which is an influencer management product. We have Under 25, which is a student community network. And we have Gallery 5, which is a brand.
These are all like super big names.
Yeah. But again, with new age technology, new age platforms, and things like that. Under 25 has been very interesting play where we are trying to tap into the youth community. I think there's no one place for youth to be today. Some may argue that could be Reddit. Some may argue that is Snap. But But I think none of them allow the essence of the student network today or the youth today to voice their opinion in a way that traditional platforms like Reddit and Snap don't allow them to, because driven by the same algorithm, right? So so we're very, and again, I would urge people to kind of download the product, use it to kind of get the essence of it. And then BBS is our influencer management product. It's basically giving a place for influencers to get access to campaigns, opportunities to get paid by brands for content creation, affiliate marketing, a lot of tools to help them create their content better, etc.
Mumbai is traditionally not known for tech. Like when I go to Bangalore, I know if I hit a third wave, we are talking startups, we're talking apps, we're talking tech, AI today. But Mumbai is different. Like I'm talking to an actor, I'm talking to a guy who's got a marble business in Jaipur. What is the current situation with Mumbai tech ecosystem? And do you see a bright future, or is Bangalore the king?
So, for example, I feel Bangalore's too homogeneous. Bangalore is becoming this echo chamber of, like you said, right? Every third wave, every chayos also, every nook and corner is tech, AI, AI. I think you get lost in your own PR, if I may use that term. So I think you need that heterogeneity that Bombay offers. No doubt, Bangalore has comes with a lot of advantages in terms of a city that offers what it does. But Bombay, even Delhi, I would even say Pune. I'm a little biased towards Pune because I've lived there also. Even other cities.
No, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, they're all like way happening.
All of them also allow you to express your business or express yourself.
So for me, I love Bombay or Mumbai. But I keep telling people, you can start your career in Bangalore. It's a great place to start, easier to get in.
Yeah.
See that world a lot, because it's important for the earliest days, just be locked in a room where there's good weather and nothing else to do. There are no beaches, there's nothing else to do. And everything is convenient. Your haircut's in your room, your food is in your room, your girlfriend's in everything. But after a while, it's okay to explore a little bit of Mumbai, because what I love about Mumbai is, see, I've never repeated a restaurant here. When I go to South, very different life. When I go to, say, Borivali, very different. And like, it's got so much flavor that it goes back into the work-life part. We'll do rapid fire. Karan Johar style. Question number 1. One startup mantra everyone loves, but you call total BS.
Hustle.
The Mumbai tech scene needs more dash.
And affordable engineering teams.
Okay. Data-driven decisions or gut instinct? Which do you trust more when building a product?
A combination, gut backed by data.
One quirky trait your team teases you about, but you secretly believe is your superpower.
I have a lot of, I talk a lot in frameworks. And my team, I know, makes fun of me in front of me, behind me, on Slack. There are memes about me.
If being a founder came with a warning label, what would it say?
You don't know what the next day is going to be. You're individually very unpredictable to people.
So unicorn startups or cockroach startups, which one do you respect more?
Any startup that has a capability to have one cash cow, which keeps on generating, and then tries innovation, but backed by its own capital. So
cockroach.
Yeah.
Who would you rather hire, a brilliant jerk or a mediocre nice guy?
Mediocre nice guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In an organization, yes. In a 3, 4, 5 member startup, the brilliant jerk.
Tell me one startup buzzword that makes you cringe or roll your eyes. Words like synergy or growth hacking or something like that.
Any word in the direction where you don't give a shit about cash, you burn in the name of growth. All terms in that direction.
Mumbai rush hour traffic or product demo crashing on stage, which one stresses you out more?
Always the second.
You like the podcast? Was it fun?
It was great fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Before you leave, I want you to drop like one nice, closing thought to maybe the future Jays or just to a random audience.
To the young folks who just getting into the product career, I think there's a lot of buzzword today around AI and how a lot of the jobs can be automated, including your own potentially. I think there will come a time, and I hope I'm not wrong about this. There will come a time where AI will only play or continue to play an assistant more than a replacement principle. The replacement theory will not hold true to any form of creative jobs. So don't worry. AI, I hope, continues to be a great assistant and not something to be afraid of, in the sense that it's come to replace my job.